Okay, this is a reaction video. This is by Neo, how the Berlin Wall worked. Please click like, share, and subscribe for them as well as for me. Let's take a look at how the wall worked. Now, let me take a look here.
Imagine having to split a city into two completely separate parts. Roads that used to connect are now dead ends. Your job on the other side of the city inaccessible. And the neighbor across the street that you used to see daily, you will perhaps never speak to him again. The Berlin Wall did exactly that, separating East and West.
Now, I was in Berlin in 2006, and that was about 17 or so years after the wall had fallen down. And look, there are parts of the wall, I think even in where I'm in Otterbein College, close to where I am right now. And I also saw part of the wall at the Reagan Library in California. But what was it? I did see some crosses and some names. There are people who died on the wall. They still remember the wall, and even though it's been like almost 20 years since I've been to Berlin, I was there during the 2006 World Cup. I think they still remember the wall. Even people who were born after the wall came down.
For almost 30 years. For this video, I've animated the various development stages of the wall in order to understand the design of this unique piece of architecture. This is how the Berlin Wall worked. Living in Berlin before the wall was built was a strange life. You could move around the entire city freely, but you were either an East Berliner or a West Berliner. After the Second World War,
yeah, because Berlin is on the very far east side of the country of Germany. If Germany, like Germany is whole now, but during East Germany, West Germany, you had East Berlin. You had Berlin scheduled in East Berlin and West Berlin. So right in the middle of East Germany, you had this city Berlin. One was controlled by capitalism. One was controlled by communism.
The victorious nations had divided the German city into several parts.
Yeah, France and United Kingdom and the United States, they controlled the western part, and the Soviet Union controlled the eastern part.
The Soviet occupation zone ultimately became the territory of East Germany, a socialist state. And the western part of Berlin remained legally occupied, but in all practicality, it belonged to West Germany, a capitalist state. Socialism and capitalism, two different nations, and even two different currencies, separated only by streets.
And one can probably the Deutschmark was probably much more valuable than the Ostmark.
Trains connecting the different parts of the city would make announcements. Next station, last stop in the eastern zone. Many people lived in one part of the city but worked in the other. East Berliners took jobs in the west in order to benefit from the stronger currency, while
which would make sense.
West Berliners got their haircuts in the east at prices that were much cheaper to them. And in a way, both systems tried to outdo the other. In West Berlin, a multitude of stores sprang up on the Kurfürstendamm Street, shop windows filled with the latest brand name products of Western consumer culture. While just a few streets away in East Berlin, there was Stalinallee, a street that was transformed into a boulevard full of buildings in the style of socialist classicism. But this open coexistence of two systems wouldn't last long.
Because look, East Germany started building the wall, okay, and I don't know. I think it was John F. Kennedy, one of those presidents, basically said, in Western you don't need to build a wall to keep people in. In East Germany communism, obviously you do, yeah.
On the 13th of August 1961, Berlin woke up to a divided city. The East German government closed the border, which means that families were split apart. Though officially stating that this was necessary to protect their country, it was an effort to stop their own citizens from...
I mean, you look at that wall, like when I grew up, I was born in 1969. I grew up, there was always an East Germany, there was also a West Germany, East Germany, West Germany. And there was East Berlin, West Berlin, there was the wall. Everything, the Iron Curtain, the whole 9 yards. Everything was set up like that. And you just came to accept it. It was what it was. Then, all of a sudden, in I don't know if I'm going to talk about it here, but in 1989, November, it all stopped. The Soviet Union collapsed within a year. East Germany and West Germany reformed within a couple of years, and it all went away. It was almost something you grew up with. East Germany, West Germany, the wall, East Berlin, West Berlin, Soviet Union, Soviet bloc, the Iron Curtain, all just went away.
Fleeing to the West, where opportunities, wages, and freedoms seemed greater. At the start, this was just a wall in name. It mostly consisted of fences and loose pieces of barbed wire, manned by guards. There were some unguarded stretches, and it was even possible to jump across. To make escaping more difficult, construction immediately began on a more permanent wall, made out of concrete and topped off with barbed wire coil around a Y-shaped metal arm. But this is not how the wall looked everywhere. A shortage of building materials meant that in the first years, just 10% of...
I saw a documentary about, it had 3 brothers, all wanted to escape to West Berlin. One of them was already over there. The other 2. The middle brother, there was a part in the wall that you could basically climb over, shoot a line from one side of the building to another, east to west, and then climb over the wall like that, and then make it into West Berlin. Now, that obviously went away, but then the other way, they literally flew in with these like these planes, these mini planes, and one of them picked the other one up, and they all made it to West Berlin. Now, obviously, they don't need to worry about that anymore, but I remember seeing a video about that, or a documentary about that.
Of the border was built like this, and there was another issue. Sometimes the border between West and East Berlin went straight through housing blocks, houses that now had to become part of the wall. The East German authorities forced people out of their homes and filled the windows with bricks. Sometimes, however, they would forget a window. On August 17, 1962, Peter Fechter discovers one such house, making up part of the wall. Peter is frustrated with the East German government as they won't let him see his sister that lives on the other side of the wall. Together with his colleague Helmut, he fantasizes about an escape to the West. The two of them see people inside the house, and in order not to be noticed, they take off their shoes and quietly creep in. By sheer luck, they quickly find the open window.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe I saw Peter Fechter's name as one of the crosses, one of the people who died. So I don't believe he made it across the wall, but I believe his friend did.
And from here, they have a clear view of the road to freedom. A fence, then a clear strip, and finally a wall. It seems doable, except for the fact that they are in plain sight of the nearby border guards. Suddenly, they hear voices behind them, and it is now or never. Peter and Helmut jump out of the window and climb the first fence. Then they are spotted, and immediately the guards open fire. Helmut dashes across the strip through a haze of bullets.
But Peter stays behind because I think looks like he's scared.
As he scales the wall, he looks back and he sees his friend Peter frozen in place. The guards are closing in further, and they will have a clear shot soon. Helmut screams, and Peter finally springs into action. He makes it across the strip, but as he jumps up to scale the wall, he is hit mid-air and slumps down. Helmut can't help his friend. An entire 50 minutes passes as a crowd of onlookers gathers to see Peter lying on the ground, slowly dying at the base of the wall.
Yeah, that's a shame that, if he hadn't, gotten frozen, and as he was trying to make his way across the wall, he might have made it, but unfortunately he didn't.
Tragic stories like Peter Fechter's were widely covered.
Now, there was also stories. I remember seeing something where there was a building in West Berlin that, and this stayed open during the entire time the wall was there, but was not known about. Very few people knew about it. But if you went down to the basement of this apartment in West Berlin, it went right underneath the wall and right into a place in East Berlin, and people could go there as at will, but not a lot of people knew about it. I remember seeing something about that.
In the West. But for the East German authorities, the only lesson learned was to increase the wall. Over the course of decades, the wall is consistently upgraded, with more and more increasing.
There was also a video about what it was supposed to look like by the year 2000, assuming it made it that far.
Security features. What once was a single wall soon became a brutal border strip, cutting the city further and further apart. As improvements to the wall.
Now, that's the Brandenburg Gate. I was at the Brandenburg Gate in 2006. I had no idea the wall was right there. I had no idea that I was standing at a place where the wall was.
Were made, escape attempts shifted to new methods, and the wall would be expanded again, a back and forth that was repeated until the last version of the wall was built.
Okay, I'm 6 years old at that time, and I it's something I knew there was a wall, and you just knew about it, but you really didn't do a whole lot about it because it was just there, and it was just something that you accepted.
Version of the wall that became famous from 1975 on.
Yeah, because what's one thing you do see a lot of in Germany, even in 2006, it's a lot of graffiti.
The East German authorities rolled out this version of the wall, a border virtually impossible for anyone to cross. And this is how it generally worked. Coming from the east, only the visual barrier made of concrete slabs can be seen. This was done so that the exact border fortifications are not visible, as this knowledge could be used to plan escape attempts.
Yeah, and looks that's why they bricked up the windows in the apartments, so that if you did get up that far and were able to look down, you'd be able to plan your way across the wall. But obviously, they didn't want that to happen.
Just behind this barrier, the ground is covered in so-called Stalin's grass.
It looks like those are like nails. Like if you jumped over the wall and landed there, you'd crush your foot.
These are mats made of steel needles that would pierce the foot of anyone trying to jump across. Next up is a signal fence consisting of barbed wire stretched over concrete posts.
That would be assuming you made it past Stalin's grass all right, that would be incredibly annoying to try and get through that.
Anyone trying to scale this fence would quickly press the wires together, triggering an alarm and notifying the guards in a nearby watchtower.
Who were probably there 24/7.
Watchtowers were manned 24/7 by 2 to 5 soldiers. These soldiers had
they probably had orders shoot to kill if they saw anybody.
A clear view of the whole border, with orders to shoot anyone on sight.
Yep.
Trying to use brute force to break these sections would not work either, as behind the signal fence are several rows of tank traps, barring anyone from driving through with a vehicle. In the middle of this border zone is a path for soldiers to patrol the area, oftentimes accompanied by dogs. And behind this is the so-called death strip, a stroke of dirt stretching for miles in every direction.
Where if you assuming you made it through the Stalin's grass the fence and the blockade, the things like that to prevent vehicles getting through. Assuming you made it through that, you're now exposed, completely exposed, so anybody looking down there can see you.
In full sight of the guard towers. Hiding is impossible. And if anyone somehow made it past here, they reach a part that is easily recognizable. The wall facing the western side. In contrast to the old wall, these elements had a foot-shaped bottom, which meant that no holes in the ground were needed for their construction. And instead of barbed wire on top, there were now pipes made of asbestos concrete. These pipes provided stability for the wall elements, and the East German authorities also hoped that they would decrease the prison camp feeling of the previous wall.
I mean, keep in mind, you are literally in East Berlin, you are stuck there. The only way really through there is through the checkpoints. And look, they were not going to let people just walk through the sector. Now, if you were west going east, that's one thing. Okay, you could buy a visa, stay there for a day, maybe come back if you want, because you have a U.S. passport. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. But if you were an East Berliner or East German, somebody from the Communist bloc, you would need paper. It would be incredibly difficult to leave East Berlin.
But this was not the only reason for the change. The new concrete used was extremely smooth, with nothing to grasp onto. One thing the authorities didn't consider, however, is that this smoothness made the wall an easy target for graffiti from the western side.
Yeah, that was one thing, is that even in Germany now, it's been almost 20 years since I've been there, there's still tons of graffiti.
Graffiti that would dominate many of the 45,000 elements that were placed in Berlin. Artworks that would often mock the East German government resulted in an open gallery of sorts, highlighting the harsh difference between life in the West, where free artistic expression was possible, and life in the East, where this was unthinkable.
And like I said, parts of the wall now are, I mean, I'm sure there are places all over the world which have the wall. Like I said, I think we have in Otterbein College, which is close by to where I'm at, and also I saw it at the Reagan National Library.
Exact numbers of victims from this wall are disputed, and it is something that to this day is being researched. But over the years, it was many who, just like Peter Fechter, were hoping for a better life on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, I think I was there. I don't know if I was there. Maybe, but yeah, those are people who were tried to get a wall and were killed at the wall. Very tragic.
But the Berlin Wall was only a small part of the division of Germany. In addition to Berlin, the whole country.
Yeah, you see East Germany right there. If you're looking at it right now, that like little dot right in the middle of it, that's Berlin, and that's East Berlin and West Berlin right there.
It was also divided into two parts, and some people made daring attempts, risking their lives to try to get to freedom.
Yeah, I think he's going to talk about a video that he did about the. I'm not going to go over that, but this is Neo, how the Berlin Wall worked. Again, fascinating video. I really appreciate him doing that. Please click like, share, and subscribe for me as well as for him, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching.